There's a scene in the film Jerry Maguire when Jerry's former protege Bob Sugar begins poaching Jerry's clients and justifies his actions by stating, "It's not called show friends, it's called show business." And never is that distinction made more clear than the icky world of television contracts. I don't think any show has reached sustained success without having to deal with the possibility of losing one of their key actors during a contract negotiation, whether it's because of a clash between the creators and the talent, or an inability to come to terms on money, or even just the desire for a performer to leave for a different opportunity. A countless number of shows have had to navigate that crisis. But when the final decision is made by the executives to move on from a performer, it then shifts over to the creatives to figure out how to handle it. They can recast the character, like how Fresh Prince did with Aunt Viv. They can write the character off and replace them with someone new, like how Cheers replaced Shelley Long with Kirstie Alley. Or they can take the most drastic approach and kill them. Look, killing off a character because they were mad at the actor has been a staple of creatives for years. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of death scenes that weren't written with malicious intent, but there seem to be just as many that were designed to stick it to the performer for leaving. From McLean Stevenson being shot down over the Sea of Japan in MASH, to John Amos dying off screen on Good Times, to Jeff Garlin being turned into a CGI monster before his death on The Goldbergs. There's a long history of killing off a character to prove some sort of point. Characters have died in car accidents, elevator accidents, and stamp accidents, but there's only one character who ever died via t-shirt cannon.
Maude?
That's right, today we'll be taking a look at the time The Simpsons killed Maude Flanders. If you're watching this video, I'm sure you know The Simpsons.
I know of them.
But even those with knowledge of The Simpsons, I don't think fully grasp just how massive the show was in the 90s. It was a certified cash cow for Fox Broadcasting. They sold toys, they sold shirts, they sold albums, they sold video games. There's a special place in hell for the developers of Virtual Bart. That game is impossible to beat. The money train was rolling in for The Simpsons, and the talent was beginning to take notice. In 1998, 5 of the show's 6 main cast members, Hank Azaria, Harry Shearer, Dan Castelleneta, Yeardly Smith, and Nancy Cartwright, all held out and demanded raises. They were earning less than $35,000 an episode, and they were asking for a contract they felt was more in line with what the show was making. They even asked for a piece of that immensely profitable syndication money. Initially, it didn't look like Fox was willing to budge, as they threatened to recast all of them. It wasn't the first time The Simpsons had recast a voice actor. Chris Latta, best known to most people as the voices of Cobra Commander and G.I. Joe, and Starscream and Transformers, was the original voices of both Mr. Burns and Moe, but he was replaced over being difficult to work with. Still, that was replacing just one actor, and not 4. So at some point, Fox backed off the hardline stance and an agreement was reached. The actors didn't get syndication, but their salaries doubled along with an agreement for $10,000 an episode raises in 2000 and 2001, as well as $1 million bonuses in 2005. With the main characters locked up in deals, the crisis was seemingly averted. But they weren't the only mouths who wanted to be fed. Well, yes, Shearer, Azaria, Castellaneta, Cartwright, Julie Kavner, and Yeardly Smith make up the bulk of the voices on The Simpsons. There is still a contingent of recurring voice actors who help round out the colorful world of Springfield. There's Tress MacNeille, who voices characters ranging from Lindsay Naegle to Agnes Skinner.
It means lamb. Lamb of God.
I'm sorry, Agnes.
Marge.
The late Russie Taylor voiced Martin Prince, as well as Sherry and Terry. And you also have Pamela Hayden, who voices the Flanders' brothers, Rod and Todd, Jimbo Jones, and Milhouse Van Houten. After the 1998 strike, it was actually Hayden who next entered negotiations with the network, but her and Fox reached an agreement, so she stayed on. The next cast member who threatened to leave wouldn't be so lucky, which is where Maggie Roswell officially enters our story. In her time on the show, Roswell had created the voices for Helen Lovejoy, Luann Van Houten, Miss Hoover, and of course, Maude Flanders. But her crowning achievement was her Emmy-nominated performance as Sherry Bobbins, a role she played at the last minute when the original choice for the role, Julie Andrews, had to turn it down. So suffice to say, Roswell was a pretty big part of the show. So big enough that when she went to Fox with hopes of renegotiating her deal, she thought Fox would listen.
You stupid.
Like the rest of the cast, Roswell was living in Los Angeles, but after the riots in '92 and the Northbridge earthquake in '94, Roswell had concerns about LA being the place to raise her new child. So later on that year, her and her family packed up and moved to Colorado. She kept her Simpsons job by flying back twice a week for the table reads and voice recording sessions, which seemed to work well enough for the year she did it. However, by the year 2000, the price of airline tickets had increased enough that Roswell was beginning to think the current situation was untenable. She was only being paid $2,000 an episode, so she went to Fox asking for a bump up to $6,000. Fox counter-offered with a paltry raise of only $150. which wouldn't even cover the plane tickets. Roswell was baffled by this decision. Aside from the knowledge that they were making a killing on The Simpsons, the Fox network was already offering her additional money to be the voice for their new show, Venus on the Hard Drive. You remember that show? It was the one about a computer program government spy lady who moves in with a couple of dorks. Just look at that cutting-edge CGI. Roswell was beyond disappointed with Fox's offer, and she stuck to her guns and left the show. To replace her, actress Marsha Mitzman-Gavin was brought in to do her voices, but it was never really the same, especially Maude.
I don't think we're talking about love here. We're talking about sex in front of the children.
Oh, I'm so relieved. Whenever you go on one of your late-night fog walks, I get so worried.
Relax, I'm fine.
Even without Roswell, the show was a machine that could not be stopped as it continued into the new millennium. The show was exiting its golden age by that point, and the creative team genuinely believed the show would be ending soon. Because of that foregone conclusion, they were less hesitant to mix it up. With the shift in pop culture, The Simpsons got a lot edgier and, well, meaner. With the annual February sweeps coming up, the writers needed some hook for an episode of the show, which is when Simpsons writer George Meyer threw out the idea that they should kill Maude Flanders. Sure, the show had killed off popular characters before. If you guessed I was talking about Bleeding Gums Murphy and Dr. Marvin Monroe, you were wrong. They were never popular. The difference between those deaths and this one was that this was a character far more ingratiated into the world of The Simpsons. It was a bold move that wouldn't have been done in the early seasons, but with the show obviously wrapping up its run soon, it seemed as good a time as any. The writers thought there was a chance to use Maude's death as a launching pad to do more stories with Ned Flanders, arguing that it'd be easier to do episodes that focused on the typically great Ned and Homer dynamic. The decision was made, and the promotional campaign began. Maude was going to die.
On the most shocking new Simpsons ever.
Oh my lord!
One of Springfield's most beloved will die. Who will it be?
Don't beat yourself up. I'm the one who parked in the ambulance zone preventing any possible resuscitation. But there's no point in playing the blame game.
Then, Malcolm Mania is sweeping the nation.
Nearly 11 million viewers tuned in on February 13, 2000 to see who would be the character killed off. But by that point, it was kind of an open secret that it was going to be Maude. In the episode, titled Alone Again, Natura-diddly, the Simpsons and the Flanderses run into each other at a fast car event. Homer incites a deadly t-shirt cannon barrage that knocks Maude over the railing and to her death. The rest of the episode deals with Ned's grief over his wife's demise, but because it's a cartoon, about 15 minutes after Maude crashes out on the asphalt, Ned's out there flirting with Christian rock singer Rachel Jordan. The reaction to Maude's death was not positive. According to Maggie Roswell, the rest of the cast found out about Maude's death at the table read, and they were all floored. The fan response was extremely negative, as people felt betrayed that the show had so callously killed Maude like that. Some fans rightfully point out that this moment permanently shifted the Ned Flanders character into a point of no return. After Maude's death, his characterization shifted from annoying religious nice guy to alternating between lonely neighbor and hardcore Christian conservative. This episode frequently comes up in discussions of moments where the show could have jumped the shark. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it was for sure a definitive turning point to the show that had long-lasting ramifications. It's controversial even among the staff. Writers Al Jean and Mike Reiss have both expressed regret over Maude's death and wish she was a character that was still available to them. Luckily, they did find a way to get Maude back, or her voice at least. Maggie Roswell returned to the show in 2002, but not because Fox felt bad. No. It was because Fox was leaving money on the table by not bringing her back. By this point, toy company Playmates had started making the world of Simpsons toys. It was a massive toy line, and one of the features was the ability for the figures to speak. However, Playmates refused to make any of Maggie Roswell's characters without using Maggie Roswell's voice, which led to Fox reopening contract negotiations with her. The decision was made that Roswell would begin recording from her home studio in Colorado, and she was welcomed back to the Simpsons cast. Ironically, while there were plans for it, a Maude Flanders World of Springfield figure never came to pass, as the toy line ended before it could be created. Roswell made her first official return to the show in that year's Treehouse of Horror, reprising her role as Maude Flanders.
Maude, you still look as pretty as the day I buried you.
Are you ready for tales that will shatter your spine and boil your blood?
Well, duh.
Then choke on these!
Roswell has remained with The Simpsons consistently since her return in 2002, and the show did find ways to bring Maude back. She's constrained only to flashback or non-canon episodes, but it's still nice to see they found a way for her to return. Still, the death of Maude Flanders remains a controversial one. It's something people still litigate 25 years later. I don't know how people are still so upset about an episode that aired so long ago, but here we are. Honestly, I don't have any exceptionally positive feelings about latter stage Simpsons, but during the research process, I read thousands of forum posts written by people still complaining about the show's decline. And after reading all that, I just want to say that in my humble opinion, I'm glad Maude is dead. I hope the show runs forever, and I hope it drives all those people insane. They'll never stop The Simpsons, and nor should they. I hopped on board Ralph Wiggum's Leprechaun Viking Death Ship, and I say,
burn the house down! Burn them all!
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider hitting the like button or subscribing. And what do you think of the death of Maude Flanders? Was that when the show jumped the shark? Let me know in the comments. I swear to God though, if I read anyone say the phrase jerk-ass Homer, I'm driving this YouTube channel back to Winnipeg.